What's going on, Bears fans? We're here with Bears on Tracks on the Chicago Sports Podcast Network. I'm myself is AC Aaron Current. You can find me on X at Aaron Current. My co-host tonight is Matt Cooper. We're going to talk a little bit about Tyrique Stevenson. Will he have a redemption year? And a little bit more about some Bears defense. But we'll be right back with all that and more.
Let's go. Yo. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer. Rising the song to the highest bidder. Got juice, got gas, I'ma move fast. New shoes, new tracks, like who's that? I'm new, come back, better than last. Yeah, it's a new me, never gonna look back. Never gonna look back. Cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast. And that's facts.
Let's go, Bears fan. We're going to talk a little bit about Bears defense today. And the name that a lot of people have coming up. We talk probably the strongest position group I think on this team was probably the secondary with guys like Jalen Johnson, who's pushing for Pro Bowl snub. You know, he just continues to get snubbed by everybody. And then you got Kyler Gordon getting his extension this offseason. Jaquan Brisker coming back from injury, and Kevin Byard really taking a leadership role. But the name that everyone wants to talk about is Tyrique Stevenson. Tyrique Stevenson is coming into his third year on the Chicago Bears. He was a former second-round draft pick out of Miami, also played for the Georgia Bulldogs in college. So he's been around and seen a thing or two. His rookie year, he started all 16 games, had 4 interceptions, 16 pass breakups, and 2 forced fumbles. He followed that up last year. He started 14 of 16 games. He had 2 interceptions, including one that was a pick six. Shout out Will Levis for giving us that one week 1. And had 1 forced fumble. But what everybody seems to remember, Matt, the one play in Washington. What are your thoughts on Tyrique off the top? And I mean, the stats don't sound that terrible, and he's playing opposite of one of the best corners in the league. But yeah, what's your thoughts on Tyrique?
Well, Aaron, you just said it right there. You said the Hail Mary. And of course, that's how everybody's going to remember that because that never freaking happens. That never happens. That you never lose a game to a Hail Mary, or it doesn't happen very often. So when you start thinking about the Hail Mary, the Fail Mary, or whatever the hell we called it last year, the entire nation was watching that, and it was played throughout the football season. And that spiraled our season out of control after that. Because we were at that time, we had a winning record. And after that, the coaching changes and everything between the defense and Caleb regressing a little bit. And so Tyrique Stevenson, whenever you get caught like that, when you get caught jarring with the fans, and I didn't even see it at first. I remember watching that here. I was out and about. I just putting your hands over your head after the end of the game, like, how the hell did that just happen? But then when you go back and watch video and you see he's not in position or jarring with the fans, I'm like, yeah, I heard a lot of people say, well, that's Eberflus and the coaching staff. No, at the end of the day, that's the player.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, you got to control yourself. You got to maintain yourself. And until he can put that behind him, and until he can go out there and prove himself, I think there's going to be a couple of questions about that. Now, I do have the confidence in him that he's going to be able to do that. It's only his third year into the league, too, under a coaching staff, under a defensive and experienced coordinator. So I feel very good. And you just put out the stats too, Aaron, about who he's playing with and what we have back in our secondary. We got some studs back there, man. So those guys alone can make you a better player. And that's why I feel so confident about Tyrique going into this year.
Yeah, I think it's a lot to look at. And I feel like it's not like he's getting absolutely shelled. Like I said, the stats are there. He's got four picks in his rookie year and 2 picks last year. The forced fumbles are there, which I think is going to go up because I don't know if you've been seeing what they've been doing in OTAs, but they've been practicing this peanut punch. And I just feel like Tyrique Stevenson is, for lack of a better word, he's kind of an asshole out there, but you kind of need that, a defensive guy that gets in your face and lets you know like Deion Sanders used to be. He's like, I'm going to shut you down, and I'm going to tell you all day how I'm shutting you down. They have to have short-term memory, loss. They can't think about the last play. They got to move on to the next play. And if you remember about the Hail Mary game that everyone doesn't seem to remember about this, Caleb had just who knows what could have happened if it had been Caleb doing the game-winning touchdown and it plays out the other way. The defense holds up and we break because we were 4-2 going into that game. I believe Washington was as well. And Washington took that momentum and went to the NFC Championship with it. I'm not saying that I don't know if we would. And if we had, we know we'd still have that head coach, which I'm on the record of saying I was not a fan of Eberflus when they hired him. Wasn't a fan of Eberflus going into last year. In fact, I said I thought they'll win a lot of games, but I think it'll be more out of in spite of the head coach than for it. But I think this could really be a redemption year for our guy Tyrique because look at the coaching staff that they've brought in. You bring in Al Harris from Dallas, who always gets a lot of stuff out of his secondary. And Dennis Allen's talked about him as well, who you bring in to just be your defensive coordinator. And he had guys like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who we know was an asshole on the field, but he made results, Tyrann Mathieu, who's the corner that just went to Washington from New Orleans.
Lattimore.
I can't remember his
What's
that? Yes,
Lattimore.
Yeah, so he had good secondary pieces under his tutelage. Do you think the coaching staff can kind of mold Tyrique into being a much better player, or do you think it's all on him? I don't know.
I think it's both. I mean, you can't just put everything on Matt Eberflus and the coaching staff last year, even though it wasn't good, and we saw what happened afterwards. You have to put some of that on the player. But it looks like when I look at Stevenson and I look at the way he's talking, I feel like a confident guy, but I also feel like a guy that knows that okay, I messed that up. It's time to go prove y'all that this is going to be my year. And I was looking at some of the numbers you brought up. And then I was kind of looking at there really wasn't that much of a drop off when you look at some of the rookie numbers compared to his 2024 numbers between like the total tackles and the pass. You hear those terms of a soft and yeah, after that, anytime you go through a game after a Hail Mary like that, where you're going to be the center of attention, that's going to get in your head. I'm sorry. I feel like any type of big moment like that, it doesn't have to even just be in sports. It could be in anything in life when you have something like that you go through. All the attention is on you. It's on you because you did something to make that happen. You can't tell me that that's not going to affect you, especially over the next couple of weeks. And I think it did when you go watch some of his games. Now, you mentioned the coaching staff. Yes, I do think when you have Dennis Allen coming in now, where he's not having to be a head coach anymore. It's just a defensive coordinator where he's really good at, and he could go into his defense. And a lot of the defenses that I was reading about with Dennis Allen, and I was kind of going back and looking at some of those Saints games. There's a lot of man on man with Stevens. There's a lot of man on man that I watch. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of man on man that he's going to bring over with the Bears. And he's really going to get a shot now on some of these receivers because if you look at our division, there's a lot of talented wide receivers in our division alone, not just across the NFL and across the whole National Football League. So I think Dennis Allen and that coaching staff is going to mold him and I think to go put him in a better position. And I think by the end of the year, that coaching staff is going to say, "Hey, man, we're going to turn this guy into a stud."
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, you talk about some of the receivers in our division. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown up there in Detroit that he's just a production machine. And then in Minnesota, you've got the best receiver in the league in Jay Jettis. I believe Jalen Johnson will be traveling with that number one receiver this year, which he's looking forward to that challenge. But that means a lot more targets going toward Tyrique Stevenson and Kyler Gordon, and that means them having to bow up, and we're going to see a lot of man-to-man, a lot of bump and run coverage. Shout out Cheryl Childress in the chat telling us Brewers 2, Cubbies 1.
That's something you don't want to see just yet, right?
Not, I'm just, like I told you before I got on, I was able to watch a couple of pitches, then I had to jump on, but yeah, and I really think that this defense kind of fits what Tyrique Stevenson is able to do. He's kind of a big body, physical receiver, who is going to bump. He can bump these guys on the line, and that kind of creeds or adds to what our defense is going toward into this new era. Now the media, he met with the media, I believe last week. Tyrique Stevenson did, and they asked him again about the play because they I don't know if it needed to be said or not, but they brought it up obviously. Because like I said, that's what everyone remembers of Tyrique. When you see 29, I mean, we even had trolls putting up a Madden cover last week with with the Tyrique Stevenson play on there.
I didn't see that. Hold on. So there was people out there putting that on the like the fake Madden cover.
Yeah, they
Dude,
did a
I
fake.
missed that, man. I didn't see that anywhere.
I saw it on
Wow.
X. But yeah, if I would have saved it, I could have put it in here and put it as the overlay. But yeah, that's what everyone's going to remember. But he talked to the media about it, and he kind of said, that was in the past. We're moving forward. We all make mistakes, but my mistakes just happen to be on national television, for lack of a better word, and just so happens we play Washington again this year on a Monday night, I believe, after our bye week. So guess what we'll be seeing for 2 weeks, I believe. But I think he's gonna really succeed with this new defense, and I think he's really taken. So another thing that he said about this coaching staff was, and maybe this is kind of a shot at Eberflus. He said, I've been under Kirby Smart, etc., for as a defensive head coach, and they're into the details. But these coaches are into the details that are inside of the details that are inside of the details, and they're going to tell you why. So I don't know what they were doing last year. We're hearing a lot of shade thrown at our former coaching staff as they're out the door, but I thought that was really interesting, Matt. I don't know if you heard that specific tidbit, but I think he's handled himself well at the podium. He took all the questions and answered everything honestly. But I think it's just time to move on. Do you agree?
Yeah, and there's something else to think about too. This is a whole new coaching staff. This isn't. I know that our general manager drafted him and thinks very highly of him, but you also have a whole new coaching staff coming in this year. And anytime that happens, like everything's great right now. You read everything from training camp, you hear Ben Johnson, and you hear the other coaches talk, well, this player looks good, this player looks good. We got to remember this too. At the end of last year, our defense played very poorly. And I know that's because the coaching staff changed and we put new guys in different positions and guys calling plays that probably shouldn't have been calling plays. I understand all that. But I also felt like the defense regressed too. And there's a lot of those same players that are going to be here this year. So I think anytime you see a new coaching staff come in, any sport. I mean, perfect example, like Craig Counsell did it last year with the Cubs, kind of weeding in what he likes, what he doesn't like, and then going into the offseason, guys, this is what I need. These are my type of players. And now you see what the Cubs are doing this year because second year, you got a guy like Craig Counsell, who's a great coach, getting those type of players. I feel like the same thing's going to happen with the Bears this year too. The coaching staff's going to come in here and it's going to kind of be that feeling out process, but it's also going to be a process of like, okay, these are the type of players that we could see going forward. These are the type of players that we need to replace. And who are those players going to be? Tyrique Stevenson could very well be on that list. I don't know the answer to that. I guess we're going to let it see how it's all going to play out. But it's not just going to be like players like Tyrique Stevenson. There's going to be other players on this team where the coaching staff's going to say, okay, if we want to take that next step and we want to go for it all, not saying that we don't go for it all this year because every NFL team is going to do that, but let's just be realistic. Like that's what's going to happen this year. And Tyrique, so he's got something to prove. To me, he's got something to prove. He's got something to prove. Get over that Hail Mary game, go out there and prove everybody wrong and show them what a good player you are, especially under this new defensive coordinator, Dennis Allen.
Yeah, and that's something that he talked about as well, is how this coaching staff is allowing them to go out there and get their money. He said that verbatim. He's allowing us to go out here and earn our money when a corner can go head to head. And I mean, like I said earlier, Jalen Johnson is going to be following the wide receiver one around, which is something that you want to see from your corners to be able to match up man to man on these guys. And if they can't, then they need to. I mean, they're going to weed them out, so it'll be up to, and Tyrique's not the only one that's got a lot to prove. We got guys like Tremaine Edmonds making a whole lot of money that may or may not have deserved every dime of that thus far. He was a guy that I was excited to come in here, and man that middle linebacker position after Roquan left, which was for other reasons. I'm not. We'll probably never know the full story of that, but
Who was one of my
yeah.
favorite players, by the way, when he was here. That was in the last 10 years. Roquan was one of my like top 5 favorite Bears players.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I went into that draft wanting Roquan. We end up with Roquan, and I was really excited to have him, but it just sucks that we weren't able to keep him around. But TJ Edwards came in and has played really well at that linebacker position. But I really think up front on your defensive line, it really impacts the back end. If you're not getting home up front, you're not going to have, and if quarterbacks can just stand back there and pick you apart, we saw it for years with Aaron Rodgers and heck, even Kirk Cousins when he was in Minnesota could just stand back there and just pick our zones apart and do all of those things. So Matt, I want to get your thoughts on our defensive front. We brought in Dio Odangbo from the Indianapolis Colts. He plays a little bit of edge, a little bit of three technique. We drafted some guys. We're getting some guys back. Andrew Billings, my usual co-host KB, that's his cousin, so he's like family to me. I
Really?
love Andrew Billings. Yeah, he's a great guy on and off the field. And Montez Sweat, another guy who got paid. We paid this man to be a big time pass rusher, and other than the 1 year when we traded for him, he has never put up double digit sacks. What do you think this defensive line can do, and do you think we need to add, or I'll just kind of let you take kind of freestyle on our D line if you want.
Yeah, yeah. First off, everybody in the chat, I see Rocket Dream, Ed in there. What's up, guys? Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you guys watching tonight. You start. I'm gonna. So you're right. You bring up a good point when you start talking about the back end, and we're talking about Tyrique Stevenson today. It does a lot of that start up front, and you ended it right there by saying Montez Sweat, and we gave him a lot of money, man. That's a lot of money we're paying a defensive end to go out there and be like the Myles Garrett or that end that we want him to be, and it didn't seem like he was like that last year. The contract, I don't think it lived up to the contract. Listen, I like Montez Sweat. I think he's a good player, but if you really
Right.
want to put everything into perspective, I don't think that contract that lived up to that contract. And you hear a lot in the offseason of us saying, hey, we need to go get another edge rusher, or go sign this other edge rusher. Well, when you're giving a guy a big contract, a top 10 type of contract, it's very hard to go sign another top 10 type of contract. So we got to have him go out there and 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 go play like that and go play like that type of player. So I think it starts right there with him. I like the Grady Jarrett pickup too. I think he's a veteran presence that's going to help there on the defensive front too. I don't know what he's got left. I think he played well. I think he still played very well for the Falcons last year from what I watched. And we'll see what he's got because it's, let's face it, that's on the back end of his career. But I think he could be a big help, especially for some of our younger players. Um,
Yeah.
a big help for a younger guy like a Billings who will be right there
Mhm.
behind him, like a Turner, right behind, who we just drafted this year. I think that's a key too. But I think it starts with Sweat, man. I think it starts with Sweat, right up there with him and that contract that he has.
Yeah, I love what you said about Grady Jarrett. Bringing him in, putting him next to Billings. They might just be in, those. I believe those are the starters. But that's two Walter Payton Man of the Year award nominees in the middle of your defensive line. As you said, being bringing this younger crowd up. Javon Dexter's really stepped up this year. I heard Billings talking about it to the media, I think yesterday, maybe the day before. The role that he's taken going forward of being a leader. He called everyone down to Florida to work out with him this offseason. So he's really taken that next step. We just need to hope he's got the get off on the D line, because that's
Mhm.
always his question mark. Going back to Florida, his get off was questionable. Um, the other edge, I would love to see Austin Booker take a big step this year, put on more weight and really fill out that frame, because he was a skinny dude last year. So hopefully he could put on. And I mean, Ben Johnson himself talked about Dom Rob. I don't know. Every year I'm like, what is Dom Rob doing to stick around? And I don't know what he does in practice, but these coaches just absolutely fall in love with his size and athleticism, I guess. Remember, this is a former wide receiver that they've moved over to defensive end. I do got to say, I think Trax put this in here. I know it's not Bears news, but he said that the Bulls re-signed AK. That I'll have to wait and see if that's confirmed, but that's a questionable move. I don't know if you're a Bulls fan. If you grew up in the '90s, everyone's a Bulls fan, but it's they've really fallen off really since Jordan left. But
Yeah, I'm looking.
I
I'm
just
trying
wondered,
to look and see if I could see that anywhere as well right now. I didn't see that pop up on my notifications or anything like that. So if anybody else sees that in the chat too,
yeah.
I saw that pop up. So I'm looking around right now as well.
Yeah, and he just reminded me of, of the jersey giveaway. I meant to bring this up at the start of the show, but we are doing a jersey giveaway now. In order to be put in. So every month, I believe, starting in July, all you have to do is like, comment, subscribe right here to the Chicago Sports Podcast Network. Tell your friends, tell your family. Just come on over and give us a like, give us a subscribe, hop in the chat, and you might win a free jersey out of it. I mean, I don't know if I'm eligible for this, but I'm a jersey guy myself. I've got old school. I've got new school. Of course, we all have Walter Payton. I've got Brisker in the closet. I've got Billings in the closet. I've got older ones. I got Akeem Hicks. I've got some that I'll never pull out again, like Trubisky. But if you come in here, you get a free jersey. I mean,
Trubisky.
that's yeah. I bought one. Yeah, I did. But yeah, it's definitely this is a heck of a deal that Trax is putting on here on the Chicago Sports Podcast Network. And I have lost my train of thought. I guess we're talking D line. Do you think we need to add anyone else, or do you think maybe it's a little early to call that? I mean, they haven't even put pads on in practice yet, you know. But I know a lot of people talked about Jadeveon Clowney getting cut. He's a possibility. Zadarius Smith's a guy that I like a lot because I'm a Kentucky dude, and he came here. But I think he may end up back in Detroit. I'm not really sure. But
That's what
there's
I
some
saw
guys.
too. I thought I saw that. I thought I saw that a couple of days ago where they were trying to get him back to go to Detroit.
Yeah. If he comes here, he would finish his NFC North gauntlet. We're the only team that hasn't had him. But do you think we need to add to that D line room a little bit more, or what are your thoughts on it, Matt?
Yeah, I thought they were going to do that in the beginning of the year. I still think we're missing. I think that's going to be the biggest question mark going in this year. As we were talking about in the beginning of the show, that I thought the defense regressed a little bit last year, even though we put all the coaching. I know all the turmoil and everything that was going on last year, but I was disappointed in the way our defense played, especially some of the last couple of games. Not necessarily the Packer game, the last game of the year, but leading up to that, I was disappointed in gave up a lot of points in some of the games that we had last year. And I thought a lot of it had to do with not getting a pass rush on the quarterback. And we're going into this year, and I think they upgraded. I'm interested to see what Deo does, getting him in here and seeing the type of pressure that he could put on.
Mm-hmm.
I see mixed reaction with him. I see some experts saying that, yeah, this is a guy that can help you out. And then I see some other people saying, well, you guys overpaid for him. I don't know the answer to that. I think if Montez Sweat goes in and is the Montez Sweat of 2 years ago of what we got, I think that could certainly help his case. So I still think we're relying on some of our younger guys to come in and do that, and we're probably maybe a player short on the defensive line. But let's see what happens. Let's see what these young guys can do. Let's see what Grady Jarrett can do with all that experience coming in this year, and maybe we can be a little bit better at stopping the run as well. Yeah. Especially on this defense, on this Dennis Allen defense. And I think Dennis Allen, with the experience of as a coordinator as he is, will have our guys in position all the time to make those plays.
Yeah, Trax is still in the chat about the AK extension.
There it is.
It says reports indicate that Arturas Kanashovas, the Chicago Bulls executive vice president of basketball operations, and Mark Eversley, the general manager, have both received contract extensions. It did come out earlier in the week that Billy Donovan gotten a contract extension after turning down the Knicks, who fired Tibbs. If that's not a little bit of
the Knicks were trying to trade for like every coach in the league when they fired Tibbs.
Right. So they get rid of Tibbs, and then every coach turns them down, including ours, and our coach ends up with an extension as well as the front office. I gotta say, man, as a I have become more as a Kentucky fan. I've become more of a let's just follow the players more than the teams. But growing up in the '90s, like I said, I grew up a Bulls fan, and I feel like every team in the league has a Kentucky player other than the Bulls. So it kind of makes me not not care for them. I don't to say it nicely, but these contract extensions, if they're true, what have they done to deserve it? I mean, I know again this is a Bears show, but it's Chicago sports podcast. We kind of got to talk about this. I mean, this is a team that hasn't drafted well, has given extensions out to guys like Patrick Williams who didn't really deserve it. Gave the max deal to Zach LaVine and was able to trade him away, but didn't really get anything back. And then, of all things, I mean, we saw a trade yesterday of Memphis and Orlando where they sent Bain for 4 first-round picks and a player, and we send Alex Caruso to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are about to be finals champions, and they have a million first-round picks, and we couldn't get a single one back. Matt, do you are you on the same page with me? This is what are we doing in Chicago, or and this is your favorite baseball team's owner as well. I mean, you could speak on Jerry Reinsdorf a little if you'd like.
Well, yeah, I think as Bulls fans, we've just been stuck the last couple of years, and I thought we saw some promise last year at the end of the year. I think the little bit of promise, the way they played a little bit better with everybody, but at the same time, this is what we've been. We've been an eighth play-in, or not even an AC. We've been a play-in favorite or being a play-in. And what's that going to get you in the NBA? And that's why you're seeing teams, and it started early here with that Memphis and Orlando trade. I think I think they gave up a little too
Hmm.
much. But Orlando's pretty much saying we got to get ahead of this, and we got to see if there's somebody that can put us over the edge. And I think it's going to make them a better. But I think they gave up a little too much for that. But that trade is going to kind of signal of what other teams are going to be doing, or what other teams are going to be looking at this year. And what are you going to have to give up to get another player here to take that next step? I don't know what that is. I honestly don't know what
Yeah.
that is. Because I feel like we tried it the first time around with these guys and it didn't work, and now here we are again. And what do we? Where are you going to go get that, Josh Giddey? Are you going to be able to go get that guy again? Another player that's similar to that, or what are we going to do in the draft this year? Because we do have a great coach. I love Billy Donovan and what he's done, and you could just tell he's a smart man and smart at basketball. But I just don't. I just don't know where we go from here, because every year I feel like we're confident that we're going to turn the corner or do something and take that next step, but we haven't done that in the last couple of years. It's been playing games. I'm tired of playing games.
Yeah, and I feel like the playing game has kind of been their stepping stone of saying, "Well, look, we're a playoff team." Like even AK said it last year after they traded away Zach LaVine. They were kind of asking him about the future and what all this means, what all this holds, and he said, he was just kind of said, "Hey, we're right there. We're a playoff team. We're in it, but you're really not in it if you're in a play-in team." I mean, the Miami Heat gave us fake hope a couple of years. Was it last year or the year before where they came in as the 8 seed and made it all the way to the finals or the Eastern Conference Finals or something? So they kind of gave those teams hope, but in reality, none of those teams are in that upper echelon. You didn't really take the steps you needed to full on tank, but you also haven't taken the steps you needed to build anything. You don't have the draft picks to trade for anybody, and you didn't get draft picks back in guys that you traded away. So I don't know, man. I know they're lucky I'm not in charge of making. And Billy Donovan, former Kentucky Wildcat, so I like him too. I know he won championships in Florida, but um, uh, his offense was fun to watch at the end of the year last year. The running gun, they were kind of doing a kind of what the Pacers have been doing, and I think that really triggered Orlando to make this move where they traded for a guy that could shoot threes. I think he shoots at a 42% clip. So they're
That's
they're
why, that's
they're
the big
going out
reason
to
why
get
they
a
did it.
shooter to go with Banchero, making moves. And the Bulls don't have the ammunition to make those moves. Maybe maybe I'll be surprised in a couple of years and we can pull something off and build something, but I don't get these moves that the Chicago Bulls are making.
Well, let me ask you this question too. When you watch the finals, and you just said it, like tomorrow's probably going to be. I have a hard time, especially if Halliburton's hurt. I feel like Oklahoma City is going to take that game. When you watch those two teams play, especially a team like Oklahoma City, look at that depth that they have on
Absolutely.
that team. They've got so much depth and the style that they play, and we don't have anything near like that. Like there's nothing close to that, and that team builds like that, and they're so good at doing that. Indianapolis, same thing. They got a lot of depth on that team. And not just those teams, even like the Cavaliers and some of these other teams that you see on these runs have the way they're set up, and I just feel like we don't have that, and we haven't had that the last couple of
Yeah,
years.
and the Bucks are going to probably end up trading away Giannis and resetting, and they'll get a ton of draft picks there, and we don't have a star to trade away, and we don't have the horses to run with the teams. I mean, SGA just won the MVP, and he's not the only player on that team. And this might be the worst version of the Thunder team we see with all the draft picks that they have. So
That's what I forgot to mention too, the amount of draft picks that they have coming up as well, man.
it's crazy, man. But yeah, that's breaking news here on the Chicago Sports Podcast Network. But we'll try to get back into
Thank you.
talking a little more Bells.
Yeah, thanks to Tracks and the Chicago Sports Podcast for
Absolutely.
being right on top of all that.
Yeah, shout out to Trax on that one for putting us in there. Um, yeah, we'll try to get back on track here and reset. Talk a little bit about the Bears. We talked about D line. We talked about the corner and the safety position. Do you think Zay Frazier? I know Annie Up is usually he's been on a few shows with me, and he's a big fan of this Zay Frazier that we drafted. Do you think he pushes Tyrique Stevenson at all? And if he does, is there a possible position change in store for Tyrique Stevenson? Some people question about his speed and athleticism to stick with the guys, so maybe a safety spot is more fitting for him. Do you think any of that has any truth to it, or just stick with where he's at?
Well, I think anything could be possible, and I think we got to look at the health too of Brisker. Now we have a lot of depth in our secondary because Elijah Hicks is right there behind them as well. But you see some of the videos and some of the comments made about Frazier during the camps, and it's very the coaching, as you can see, is very high on that on him. And but we'll see. Again, this is without any pads
Right.
on. This none of that. Like we got to see when we go into training camp that we'll see if he can be the real deal. But yeah, this is the type of player that I think could push him. And the one thing that our team has been good with is the depth in our secondary. I think we've had some very good depth there. Terrell Smith is the other guy that
Absolutely.
I think is right behind him, that he can push and make. I thought he played very well when he subbed in last year. So let's just hold off. I'm going to say this with any rookies too, man. I'm excited about our rookies just like everybody else. I'm excited to see where they can and go in here, but let's just hold off and see where they can do or what they can do when we get everything together and we get all the pads on and stuff like that, and see if he can make that push. Because then I saw another person like tweet out, and listen, it wasn't like a reporter, it wasn't anybody that covers the Bears. It was just some Bears fan tweeting out, does this make Jalen tradable now that we have Frazier in the back? I'm like, oh my God. I didn't say anything. I didn't respond. I'm not that type of person to do any of that. But I was like, are people already making those type of assumptions or those type of questions after a couple of weeks of
We
watching
saw
him?
it. We
I'm like,
saw it
how ridiculous is that?
draft night. Now it's a different position, but as soon as they pulled the trigger on Colston Loveland, I saw Bears fans saying, "Are we going to trade away Cole Kmet now?" They both play tight end, but one is a move tight end, one is more of an inline tight end. So that needs to be uh, cleared up. And Loveland. Speaking of our draft picks, Loveland and Burden, we haven't really seen them yet. They've both been injured, so I know it's limited. And they haven't had pads on. We continue to say that, but it's a kind of struggling if you've ever been a Bears fan for a certain amount of time and saw a guy by the name of Kevin White come along when you were worried. Oh yeah, he's day to day. They're all day to day in my mind. A little troubling, but it is two different positions there as far as Colston Leveland and Cole Kmet. But yeah, there's
See, I did the chat says no
yeah.
trading Jalen. I'm like, no, that like that. Yeah, that was just some idiot put something out there.
Yeah. Bears fans are. I love Bears fans, but sometimes they jump to conclusions, and it's not always great. But
Well, this is what happens when you have a lot of losing seasons.
that is true. Yeah,
When
yeah,
we get excited for stuff
yeah.
like
I
this.
mean, the draft feels like my Super Bowl every year. I look through all the I do all the mock drafts and look through everyone else's mock draft and do all the research. And I'm not a film watcher, but I watch a lot of college football. But I'm more in the SEC down here, as you know. But
Mhm. Mhm.
that it seems like, and I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but it seems like Ryan Poles, you can't get a read on who he wants to draft. I mean, all the way up leading up to the draft, they talked to a line. We heard people talk about Tyler Warren out of Penn State. Never once did I hear him say Colston Loveland, and then all of a sudden Colston Loveland's the guy. And Ian Rappaport tweeting about how he was kind of the darling of the draft. They had a lot of call ups, people trying to call and move up, and then once Colston Loveland was taken off the board, the calls kind of stopped happening. But yeah, I don't think there's any shot that they trade away Jalen Johnson. But that does bring up an interesting point because we did see Tyrique Stevenson make the boneheaded play in Washington, and the team really collapsed after that. I believe right after that, we went on the 10-game losing streak and only finished it up with a game winning field goal in Green Bay that really brought us back from the brink. You know, in between that, we saw head coach fired, offensive coordinator fired, and this and that. But Jalen Johnson is wearing a C on his chest. He's standing, he's in your secondary. And I feel like that was another question mark of the former regime. You had 8 captains on this team, none of which in the trenches, which is obviously a red flag. Um, do you feel like that was a precursor of things to come with 8 captains on this team and not a single one of them could really rally the troops and, and step this game up?
It's a lot. It's a lot of captains,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
8 captains, man. It's a lot. I think anytime you just look back at that, and this is like a lot of other coaches that we look back in the Bears' history of failed that didn't work, and I just feel like anytime you think of the Matt Eberflus experience, there was just turmoil and confusion, and these guys are captain or these guys aren't captain, or why are these people not watching tape? When you start getting a lot of those type of those conversations coming out and coming out of the locker room, you've lost the locker room and you've lost the leadership, and anything was pretty much on the line last year. And I think that's why we need a clean slate this year as we talk about a guy like Tyrique Stevenson. As you notice, the reason why we're bringing him up is because of something that went wrong last year, because there was a lot of things that went wrong last year. And you want to get that clean slate now. You want him, and he seems like he's got his head on his shoulder. I like the way he plays, and you want to see a guy like him just go out there now and just say, you know what, guys, shut up now. I'm going to shut everybody up. This Hail Mary was a fluke. I'm going to go out there and show you what type of a cornerback and what type of a lockdown player that I can be and show you. And I got the confidence that he's going to be able to do that. And this coaching staff's going to allow him to do that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Matt. And I don't think I could have said it much better myself. The motivation. I mean, these guys are all professionals, and by the time you're entering your 3rd year, remember the NFL stands for not for long. These guys, I believe the um, average career in the NFL is less than 4 years if you add up, everyone who comes in and at the end of their contract, if they get an extension or not. I believe that's true. Less than 4 years. So it stands for not for long. And once the shine of being a rookie kind of wears off and you're bright eyed and bushy tailed coming into the league, you kind of step. I mean, this is the 3rd year, so he's going to be looking for that contract extension after this year, going into the next. So he's got a lot of people to prove wrong inside the building, outside of the building, with a whole new coaching staff. That's good. I mean, DT Honey Bears in the chat. He says our new coaches will have these boys physically in shape, and I agree with that. We've already seen clips from OTAs, everyone running and everyone staying in shape and not coming in overweight and putting their nose to the grindstone and putting in the work. I think I love the coaching staff that Ben Johnson has put together. Someone earlier in the chat said maybe Eberflus would have saved his job if he would have hired a different offensive line coach. We went out and got a new offensive line coach. We went out and put pieces into our offensive line. I know we're talking defense today, but it's a full team sport. It's the ultimate team sport. And if we can get home on that defensive line, I think that'll help us out a lot in the secondary and in the back 7. and maybe get some turnovers. I mean, like I said, he had 4 interceptions his rookie year, 2 interceptions last year, a couple of forced fumbles each year. So get those numbers up and playing man to man. I, I think, like you said, Matt, he's coming. He's going to come out. He's going to prove everybody wrong. And if he doesn't, then we'll be drafting another corner next year, I guess. But I think he's really got it in him to prove everybody wrong. And
And it sounds like that when you hear him talk too. It sounds like that. It doesn't sound like this over. It doesn't sound like the confident, like the over, like hey, like coming off being cocky or anything like that. I feel like he knows he's out here to prove something. He wants to show everybody, and I get the sense that he's putting all the hard work in and doing everything he needs to do to change that narrative. And I think he will. I really do. I think he's going to be one of the guys that comes in this year that's going to change that narrative and show us why we took him and why in his third year in the league he's going to be one of our better stars on our defense and our already loaded secondary, as we've talked about earlier today.
yeah, I agree. But I'm going to flash this up one more time to let everybody know. Starting next month, we will be giving away a free jersey every month. All you have to do is like, comment, and subscribe to the Chicago Sports Podcast Network right here on YouTube. Come in our chat and interact with us, and you could have a chance to win a free jersey. And that's a sweet deal. For sure. That's so shout out to Trax for that. Unless you got anything else, Matt, we'll close this thing out.
You know, when to talk about the jersey, by the way, I was thinking about this. You bring up the jersey, and jerseys are not
No.
cheap. They're not, man. And you want to order one, and you want to order like the right player. You want the right colors and size. And as you're looking at that earlier today, I was like, well, and this is what I was doing. I was looking at the jersey. It's like I want to order this. Oh, but I might hold off. I'll wait because I want to wait a little bit. So a jersey is a big thing. So you could winning this jersey, you could have that jersey with you then. And you could have that with you all season long, and you don't have to worry about that. And you go to every game or any bar or any Freddie's friend's house to wear that jersey, man. So I love a good jersey. So this is so cool that we're able to be able to give you this opportunity for the jersey.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm a Jersey guy. Like I said, I got a closet full. I got guys that I can't wear anymore. I got guys that I wear every week, and heck, you can even have it custom made and put your own name on the back. That one will never run out. You
Hell
know.
yeah. I don't know who you are when you're
That's
walking
right.
up,
That's
man.
right. But yeah, I mean, if that's it, we talked about the secondary. I think we're both on the same page that we think Tyrique Stevenson's coming through for a redemption year. Got a lot to prove, and we both think that he will go out and prove a lot of people wrong, a lot of the doubters wrong. I think it all starts up front, but I think that he's got what it takes to fill that back end and stuff the stat sheet with interceptions, fumbles, maybe take one to the house, and who knows, maybe DA gets really creative and lets him blitz off the edge. Remember how many times we saw Kyler Gordon coming off the edge last year and able to really throw teams off? Maybe they'll let Tyreek do that a little bit, but
Like a torpedo, man. He was connected too.
absolutely, yeah, I think that helped him get him a contract extension. But
Mhm.
yeah, until next week, like, comment, subscribe to the Chicago Sports Podcast Network right here on YouTube. But until next time, Matt, we'll just leave everybody with a bear down.
Hell yeah, man. Bear down, baby.